Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. Pub chat. It's a different kind. It's pub chat time. Bevs.
Yeah.
And a slightly different camera setup, so forgive us when we're looking this direction and not talking to you and instead talking to the microphone because the camera's in a different place. Because the camera that I normally record with is doing a time lapse right now, and I didn't plan that good. That's on me. My bad.
We did not plan this very well.
I'm stacking tasks. But so if you are let's do some business right now. Real quick. If you are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below about the stuff that we're going to talk about. Share this video and subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, all that. And if you're catching us on a podcast network, write a review. Do whatever your podcast network demands. It might be a thumbs up, maybe a star, maybe a heart, maybe a horseshoe, maybe a clover, maybe a blue moon. You know what I'm talking about.
I do love me some marshmallow cereal.
It's not great cereal, honestly.
You're wrong.
I'm a Captain Crunch guy.
You're wrong.
Comment below about how I'm going to defeat you in a fight because my mouth isn't made of weakness.
No, I would rather
Captain
have
Crunch is the superior cereal.
Captain Crunch is gross.
I love Captain Crunch unapologetically and ferociously. So, before we continue with this, a shenan, I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. This is the thing that we are doing. And these pub chats are generally a bit more chill, a bit more loose of goose. Well, at least for her, because I'm already a loose goose.
He's definitely more of a loose goose right now than normal.
That's fair. I'm already the unhinged commentary in these. We know that. But so it's been a while. It's been a minute. And I thought, why don't we talk about the things that we're doing? And just sort of kind of catch up a little bit. Right?
Yeah,
the things we're doing for projects and self-improvement and what we're doing and adding from a witchy standpoint and things like that. Yeah. Because time is full of change and as such we're all making those changes. So it's nice to sort of catch up on those changes a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and we've been trying to focus on the basics this summer. Mm-hmm. So for those of our
we have been getting back to basics
for those of us 10 listeners, we've definitely had some periods where we've had too many things going on, and then it takes a little while for these videos, and we really want to do these every week.
This year has been
and so was last year. So it's been a tumultuous couple of years for us, and that's because we have made
as
it
such
so
we appreciate those of you who are still
that's what
listening.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
So we've made it so that you no longer work a day job. You
a real day job now, for sure.
Well, you still have a job, but
I do a job. It's not a real job.
You don't have a 9 to 5.
It's a make-believe job.
So
I am an artist.
Yeah.
Make-believe job.
Yeah. So you've made it so that we've made it so that you are doing the podcast and also our Etsy shop a full-time. And that's been a really weird thing for us to kind of get used to.
It's been such a transition, my dude. Yeah, totally. I feel it's crazy. I am physically in this house more, and I feel like I have less time to do housework, which is bonkers. You know what I mean? And inversely proportionate to the logic of time itself, I feel like now that I've started doing more stuff, I have recently started adding more shit to my day, I feel like I have more time and I'm able to do more things.
I feel the same
because of it. And I know that that's such a bonkers take, I guess, but literally in the last month and a half or something, I have finally started being able to catch up on stuff. And this is directly related to the fact that I've been working out more and reading more and studying more and doing more stuff. I mean, our Etsy shop went from we've tripled, if not whatever multiplied by 4 is.
Quadrupled.
Bam. We've cannot believe I forgot that. We have like tripled or quadrupled our like output over the last month, but it feels like it's not more work.
Yeah,
you know. So I feel like I have more time because I'm doing more things. As bonkers as that is, trust me, I have a watch that tells me when I go to sleep and how much I sleep. I'm not gaining more time in the day. Honestly, you know what? I'm going to sleep closer to a reasonable human and mortal way to go to sleep. Yeah. Man,
well,
I'm going to sleep closer to 1 or midnight as opposed to 2 or 3, which I guess that's a thing.
And we're working towards a time where I can leave my 9 to 5.
Sure, totally.
To do this also, which includes, of course, the podcast too, and you know, all of these endeavors that we have. So it's been like a weird couple of years of transition for us to get to where we are now, and we're still certainly not at like a goal, shall we say?
We haven't made ground. We're still out to sea. There's still a bit of rocking in the boat. We haven't made landfall just yet with regard to the like intrinsic stability of the endeavors we are participating in. But I think that in the process of that sort of rocking change, we're certainly finding our sea legs. Right? We're finding our feet in it, as well as having the opportunity. And, you know, I think that we've both been doing this for the last couple of months, like more recently than not, like making a lot of personal headway with regard to like improvement and growth and like sort of doing the stuff that we've been wanting to do and like not like in quotes not finding the time for, you know. And I think that a lot of that is like it's, you know, to be overly dramatic about it, it's like real easy to find the excuse of there's not enough time. But the fact of the matter is that we have way more time than we think we have in a given day with regard to our ability to reasonably, like, you know, like for instance, and like from my perspective, you know, like I'm going to talk about this very specifically with like working out, right, and exercising. And I kind of hate the term working out because we're not going to pretend that I'm like doing reps or like counting or anything, right? I found that I'm literally not. Let me tell you about lifting to like failure. Okay. So like 2-3 months ago, maybe 3-4 months ago, I was like, I'm going to start exercising again because, you know, I should do that and potentially be less people, but in reality, just like exercise again, because sometimes I got to carry like 150 pounds of fucking cement from one side of my property to the other or some silly thing like that, right? Move half a redwood tree for no reason. So I was like, I'm going to start exercising again. And I was like, I'm going to like do all this stuff. I'm going to set up like a system, right? Everybody says you got to have like a system or something. And so I'm like trying to do that. And it was very fits and starts. And it was very like interruptive to the flow of my day, right? And so I decided to sort of like I continued to do that. But as I did that, I started finding it like better ways of incorporating that into my day-to-day, right? And like I don't have equipment. I have like 1.5 sets of weights because I have 2 like I think they're 20-pound dumbbells or something like that, and then I have 1 like 15-pound dumbbell because I don't know where the other one is. So it's gone forever. And so that's the only weights that I have. And so like in the beginning, I was trying to like do curls and like count them. You know, I'm going to do 9 and 9 and then 7 and 7 or fucking whatever. Right. And I was trying to build a structure to it. And as I was listening to like podcasts, and we're going to get into like the stuff that we're listening to, trust me. But like, as I began to like listen to these podcasts and really like like start doing like more nature meditation and like sort of organizing my days a little bit better, I got to this place where I realized that like that's dumb and I don't need to count how many fucking curls I'm doing. Like it's a waste of time. Right? I'm just going to curl until I don't want to do that no more on this arm. And then I'm going to do it on the other arm. And then I'm going to do a different exercise. And I'm just going to like sort of like bing bong around. And inevitably, what I sort of fell into, kind of accidentally, was that like I'm like finding a YouTube video or a podcast or something in the like 30 to 45 minute range. And I'm just going to like put that on outside and then like grab some weights and clear some space on my front deck and like just exercise until it's done. But I'm not going to waste like the mental effort to like count or like try and achieve some sort of specific goal. I'm just going to like exercise for exercise's sake. But also, if I know I'm doing like yard work, right? If I'm going to be like hauling a bunch of wood or like a bunch of lumber, or if I'm going to be hauling a bunch of dirt or soil or whatever, then I'm not going to exercise that day because that's the same amount of exercise. I'm still lifting heavy stuff, right? If I'm chopping wood, I'm not going to fucking do curls, right? And I stopped focusing on achieving a number and I focused more on just like sort of enjoying exercising and like, while I'm doing that, listening to these podcasts and like learning, or listening to these lectures and learning. And it's made it so that there are certainly days. The other day I found I was listening to like a 17-minute like short form analysis of Carl Jung's shadow work, like his interpretation of the shadow and like his belief in the Godhead and like the interaction of those two things. And it was about 17, maybe a little bit more than 17 minutes long. And that got done. And I was like, but I want to listen to more and I want to exercise more. So I just immediately started one of his, like a Carl Jung lecture and worked out for like, and like exercised for like 15, 20 more minutes just because I was like so interested in the topic that the fact that I was like doing a physical thing, moving pieces of metal around and like exercising didn't matter because I was into this other thing. And like, that's like such an improvement on like, not only like my mental health and my stress, but it's causing me to exercise more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that, like for me, that's like sort of like the biggest change in my life has been that I've been like, and in like my like day-to-day function has been that I make like a very concerted effort to like exercise and study every day.
Yeah.
Because I exercise while I'm studying. Right, by listening to lectures, or interviews, or systemic analyses of alchemical whatever, or like some like very specific thing like that, and it's had like a very positive like vibe on my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like that's like my big.
Well, I think that the biggest thing that I've been working on is creating boundaries. So because I effectively have 3 jobs,
that's fair.
I have my 9 to 5, we have this podcast, and then we also have an Etsy shop, and all 3 jobs are very heavily creative. And I am a creative person, and all of my hobbies are very creative.
Sure. Totally.
Too.
Yeah.
There's only so many spoons. We've talked about this before, spoon theory, where you have a certain number of spoons to get you through the day, and each activity or thing that you do consumes a certain number of spoons. So when you run out of spoons, you basically run out of gas.
Totally.
You got to recharge somehow. And
why don't we just use gas then? Spoon theory is a very strange thing for me.
Because it's easy to imagine spoons.
Is a gas tank hard to imagine?
I mean, kind of, but also not really, but also kind of. It just sort of depends. Yeah. So anyway, because all the things that I do are very creative endeavors, I've been learning to draw boundaries for myself, both with these in creative endeavors going, okay, I'm in a good place and I don't need to work my creative, like, mana, shall we say. It really kind of feels like like mana. Yeah. I don't need to work my...
Looking at you, Magic Gathering.
I'm looking at you, World of Warcraft players. I don't need to go all the way down to 0 mana. And that's as a gifted kid that grew up in the 80s
as
and
a gifted
90s,
burnout.
As a gifted millennial, I feel like this is really hard because I know, but I also at the same time do not know when to stop. I need to continue to achieve and to do the thing. Yeah. So what I have been trying to learn is the value of rest and resting the creative muscles. Sometimes I feel like I cannot sit down and do the rest thing, but that doesn't mean that I need to be doing a creative thing. Totally. So I have been trying to learn when to pull back. So it's easiest for me to explain this with sewing. So when I'm getting into a sewing project, I'm working, and then I'll make a mistake. And it can be a dumb mistake, or it can be a big mistake, whatever the mistake is. That's fine.
It's some sort of a little thing, yeah.
But then I'll make another mistake, and it's because I'm not paying attention to how much of my mana has been consumed by the task that I'm doing. So I have been learning to go, you know what? I'm starting to feel a little tired in the brain, in the mana. My mana's getting low, and I need to stop. Like, I'm in a good place, and I don't need to continue to push myself further. And that's really been the main thing that I have been doing.
I think talking about it in like World of Warcraft, or like if I'm going to video game it, thinking about it from like the Diablo, because I'm a Diablo gamer, standpoint is like a fantastic way to put this. I think that, okay, so class-wise, let's do a quick breakdown here. So class-wise in Diablo, right, there are some classes that can regain their mana or spirit or will, or I mean, I understand that it's a different word for each class, but like, you fucking know what I'm talking about. So like some classes can regain mana like very well, right? So I normally play like a wizard sort of a character, like a magical character, and I generally spec into 2 specific fields, which is regaining mana at a ferocious rate and producing doom as far and as boldly as I can, right?
Well, that really does sound like you.
It's so fucking fair, man. Yeah. I love a good circle storm. I love a good everything near me immediately is frozen and then murdered, right? I love a good bringer of destruction levels of energy. But in order to just like walk into a dungeon and be like, "Bah!" and just like murder without doing anything. There's no clicking. You all these people, you gotta play Diablo, you gotta click on a bunch of stuff. I ain't gotta click on shit, dog. I click once and hold that shit and just move around, and destruction follows me, right? I have become death, right? Destroying worlds and such. But like, in order to do that, I have to also spec and specialize into being able to essentially produce enough mana, like constantly recover mana to handle that. And I guess I have never thought about this as a perspective of my real ass life, but that's also very accurate and true, right? I am essentially ceaseless in my passion to do things, and tireless in my ability to do them, regardless of the fact that I'm like a monster person. So I'm just like, well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Let's do a project, because whatever is going on up here is probably broken. But like, there are also classes, right? When I'm playing like a monk is a fantastic example. When I play a monk, I play like a very slow mana growth, right? So I don't recover very fast, but like my base amount is huge.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Or like when I play a paladin, right? Like my base amount isn't huge, and I essentially barely recover the stuff, but I'm also not using it very often. Yeah. Right? I'm making sure that all of my tasks don't burn up mana. Yeah. Right? Or like don't burn up spoons. So it's definitely one of these things where like how we position ourselves relationally to our ability to recover is directly proportionate to the amount of shenan we can partake in, right? Like, you got to think of like some trickster gods are doing a couple of feats, a couple of shenanigans, and some trickster gods are like, every word they say, you're like, I don't know about this guy. He's saying a bunch of shenanigans right now. We got to shut that down. Like, like the difference between like a Loki who is like constantly shenaning versus like maybe like an Anansi who is like specific shenaning, right? Bigger shenan, but also less overall day-to-day debt in shenanery.
Yeah.
Whereas Loki's over here just like, whatever, putting gum in girls' hair while he's sitting in meetings. Shit like that. Loki's over here bringing fifth grade energy.
And by no means am I like in a place where I feel like I have like a very healthy system down, right? It's certainly a work in progress.
There's no such thing as very healthy. We're always improving.
It's definitely one of those things that I continue to work on. But as I get better at it, I find that I have more creative energy to use elsewhere because I'm not depleting down to zero.
Totally.
I'm depleting to only maybe like 30% or something like that. And it allows me to be able to like diversify the stuff that I want to do, which has been like super helpful because it does still tire you out. Doing artsy and craftsy stuff tires you out, and making dinner tires you out, and doing your 9-to-5 job tires you out, and doing all these things tire you out, and they tire you out perhaps in different ways. Like a workout tires you out differently than like washing dishes or doing research.
Doing research. Let me tell you how lifting weights for 30 minutes is not nearly as exhausting as like trying to do fucking plumbing part research. Because I gotta figure out what kind of fucking fitting I need to like install the sink.
But it does still like tire you out. Yeah.
Well, I think that the lesson with regard to these things is that like a diversity of exhaustion leads to with like sort of appropriate respect leads to less exhaustion overall.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because, right, like we say spoons and we say mana, and like that's nice because we love a good spherical cow in a vacuum. We love a nice smooth Cartesian plane, right? We love a good X, Y, Z. We love a good 3 dimensions plus time. And that's nice. It's cute. It's fantastic. Humans are good at this. But in the grand scheme of things, like the texture of reality is infinitely more complex than we traditionally speak about it. And I think that like your 9-to-5, even if your 9-to-5 is creative, exhausts a slightly different part. You got to think about it as like 5-dimensional Venn diagrams, right? It's like, okay, so your 9-to-5 is creative, but it's also corporately structured, which is different than like the Etsy shop, which is creative, but more freeform structured. But that's also different than like the podcast, which is different than like our Star Trek reviews, Trek Jive, which is different than the paintings on the cabinets. Check out her fucking social media for the paintings that she does on the cabinets. They're so fire, dude. Which, and this is one of those things that like, I only now am becoming increasingly aware of that intrinsic necessity for diversity in the actions that we take, because like I've always sort of been a bit scatterbrained, right? This is one of those like ADHD superpowers. Is that like the benefit of being a bit scattered and moving from task to task a bit will-nil is that like you're not always depleting the like omnidimensional like repositories of mana at the same rate, right? So like the best example of this is like the exhaustion of me figuring out we put a new sink in, like a new like wash down station for the Etsy shop. in the place that we're doing that stuff. And like, it was super taxing mentally to figure out how to do that. But at the exact same time, right, as soon as that was done, I was like, let's do some gardening and let's like organize the back deck and like, let's do all this kind of stuff, because those are like creative endeavors, but it's different, right? Or like doing this right now and like, oh, we're not supposed to be doing work on Sunday because we're trying to like at least give one day where we're not doing like one of our 47 jobs, but
that's,
but good luck.
We'll figure that out.
It's fine.
But my point is really that it's still tiring you out, and you still have to.
Of course, yeah. You're still deplenishing.
You still have to allow,
deplenishing.
Deplenishing.
Damn, girl. Okay.
And you still have to like give yourself time to recover from that, and that's a thing that I've been working on, and I've noticed an immediate increase. But it hasn't just like increase my stamina. It's
totally.
also like increase the like joy de vivre, the passion I have for life, I guess.
Well, it's the effective utilization. So
and
okay.
I noticed an immediate increase in my ability to meditate, because one of the things that I've been doing lately when I meditate is I'll alternate. So I'm not doing the exact same thing every time. Sometimes it's more of a focus on going longer periods of being able to push away thoughts.
Sure.
And sort of accept them and let them move away.
Yeah.
And
don't push them away. Unask them.
And then
unask the question.
And then alternating with sort of like shadow and chakra work. I've been getting really into doing chakra work lately.
Everybody loves a good frequency doing a chakra, right? I love a good frequency and a chakra.
And like,
let me
we
tell
are
you how much those
absolutely going to do a whole chakra episode.
My God, yeah.
We have to get there.
100%.
And like an astrology episode. There's so many episodes. The thing about it is it's so hard because I felt like we've both had like a lot of like sort of writer's block lately when it comes to the podcast.
I think that I think that if you're present on podcasts, like if you're listening to podcasts or you're present and listening on YouTube, like all of your creators have like certainly interacted with burnout, and like.
And really what we're trying to do is, and me especially, is what I'm trying to do, I guess, is I'm trying to do all of these things without slipping into burnout. I would rather deplete my mana to 30% and like maybe take an extra couple of days to recover from that than to go all the way down to 0 and then negative. And now I'm just like a loaf.
Totally. Well, I think that, you know, it's hard for us to sort of, and I don't just mean us personally, but I think in general for everybody, I think it's hard to sort of recognize the place where within you're like pushing too hard, right? I mean,
we have not been given the tools for the most part to understand that.
In fact, it's not just, you know, to give yourself a little bit of credit, right? It's not just that you weren't given the tools to deal with the shit that's been going on in this absolute 87-dimensional fucking apocalypse that's happening all around us all the GD time. But it's that the tool that you were given, the tool that you were taught to use, that you were given, that you were trained in, and that everybody else says works, because it does work for a little bit, right? Just isn't efficient in the long run, right? It's like, so I love the idea that like nice things are nice. I like to say that. And it's not about fancy and it's not about spending money, but like nice things are nice. For example, I have owned a plethora of shovels in my life, right? I have broken so many fucking shovels in my life. Let me tell you how many fucking holes, these goddamn holes that I have fucking dug. And it's just, I break shovels so easily. Fucking wood handle shovel. You know, your standard, like, homeless despot, to quote the people. Your orange Borg, your bloody corporate garden center, right? They're selling you a barely carbon in the steel shovel with a handle that's questionably wooden, in quotes. And it works. And you know what? If you're digging a little bit, you're just a cash gardener, right? In the infill, consuming and producing, then you're fine. But if you're doing work with that shovel, it ain't the same thing, right? I just recently, like, within the last, like, 6 months, broke a shovel pretty severely and replaced it. And I was like, I want to buy a good shovel. And I bought, like, a proper, like high carbon steel blade with a good cutting edge, to cut through, enameled, steel shaft, or aluminum shaft wrapped in poly, so that way, it doesn't bend or break or none of that kind of stuff. And the act of digging something up, or like doing some land work, like leveling some land or whatever, it's like a 10th the amount of work, because nice shit is nice, right? And I think that we often sort of get in this place where we expect the tools that we were given at the beginning are effective and useful as we move through time. And I feel that we have a grand opportunity to realize that some of those tools aren't. Some of those tools are, right? Like, a good example is don't be a dick. Are you a dick? Then fuck you. Very simple tool. Everybody learned, hey, that guy's an asshole, fuck that guy. Pieces, like a perfect tool, right? Simple tool. Piece of perfection, right? But like, some of the things that we've learned, and a great example of this is like that, like, sort of negative focus we have deep down on the inside, right? That we're programmed to do. This isn't us being negative. This is us being programmed to believe that, like, we need to fix the negative, as opposed to understanding that the positive outweighs that 9 times out of 10, right? And, like, that's a fantastic example of one of these tools, one of these lessons that we were taught because of the bloody robots on the TV, because of the education system, because of, the feedback loop of, like, capitalistic corporate shenanery, right? Is that, like, a lot of that stuff sort of keeps us in a place where, we're feeling down and we're buying a thing. It's the beginning of the year and we got to get a gym membership.
Oh no, you need the notebook that's going to solve everything.
Right? We got to buy that. Let me tell you, let's take a small aside at the number of fucking journals that I have.
Ooh, I have so many sketchbooks.
This house, so many sketchbooks. I fill sketchbooks because I will use a sketchbook. I have like one sketchbook
I don't.
right now that's full of art, and the rest of my sketchbooks are like, for every page that I do art, there are 27 pages where I'm either taking notes because I have a bad memory and I gotta write down some shit, right? Like Dad's over and he's like, all right, so I'm looking for this thing about this thread, and I'm like, yes, okay, I'm not gonna remember this in 5 seconds. So I'm gonna write down all of the words you just said to, like, do my research to figure out this solution for you, right? So, like, it's 50% notes. All of my sketchbooks are 1 in 10 art, 50% notes for the remainder, and 50% me, like, planning out a bookshelf. Honestly, it's mostly bookshelves, because I'm just like, all right, I got too many books, and most of my books are in piles, and a pile, not a nice way to do book. So
no, I do not fill sketchbooks.
Oh, I fill them so fast.
I like start okay and strong, and I'm like doing stuff, and then I get maybe 10 pages in, and then it just gets abandoned. And then sometimes I go, oh, you know what, I'm gonna skip a few pages and like start anew, or I'm gonna flip it over
Yeah.
and start from
you
the
gotta
back.
separate yourself from that last art. You're like, this last art?
No,
I don't know about this art.
You know,
Give me a couple of
I'm
pages to get clear.
I'm just not an art and a sketchbook person. It's a thing that I've been learning as I like get older.
Oh, yeah?
Like I'm not an art and a sketchbook person. Like the art that I do is like not helped by a sketchbook.
Dude, okay, so for me, 8.5 and 11, 8.5 by 11 or below. You give me like one of those nice, and I've spent so much money. These art companies, you guys maybe owe me a kickback. What's up? Right? I do a lot of art. Maybe you give me some free stuff. I spent so much money in the past. But like anything above 8.5 by 11, right? For like a sketchbook, anything above a standard printer size sketchbook, I'm doing 3 arts in 100 pages. Whole ass. Dude.
See, that's basically
whole
me,
ass,
but
whole
with
ass.
a regular
but the difference is that as soon as you hit 8.5 by 11, as soon as you hit like standard, like folder size, then I can use that shit for notes, and I take so many fucking notes. Not in like a fancy collegiate way. Let's take the cap off. Let's take the fancy robe off. Let's think about this as like a crazy person scribbling on a wall levels of notes, right? Because I take notes. I have 3 note-taking books, that like paper books I take notes in at my laptop desk station. And I take notes in my cell phone. And I still forget shit all the time. Because I just like, I know that like I have a very practical functional memory. Like I have a very functional memory in the like if you ask me to build a shelf and I needed to take some measurements and build a shelf out of some lumber that you got, I have that. I don't have to do any thinking, right? But if I gotta like plan some shit or remember the fine details of a conversation we had, I'm not gonna do that, right? I will quote Star Trek. We have literally been 5 notes into the intro, like not even the intro song for TNG, but the like score for the episode. Like the screen is still fading out of black into TNG, and I will tell you all of the details of that episode. But if you ask me what I had for breakfast 15 minutes ago, I'm just like, did I eat? I don't know, because my brain just does not work that way at all. So like my sketchbook's mostly notes. I always keep one sketchbook only for art. The last art I did, it has been like 4 or 5 months since I did art in that book.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm also bloody secret time. If you are trying to do a thing, put that shit out in the open. Right? My sketchbook is I can see my sketchbook while I look at the TV. From almost every angle our living room has.
Yeah.
Right? I can see that sketchbook. And it is there specifically so I remember, hey, you should draw a dog.
Well, and my art
This is
project
your thing.
is where all the dishes are.
Yeah, your art project is like the whole ass kitchen. It's like the main kitchen space.
Yeah.
Because that's where like plates and shit go.
Yeah, so it's easy
You know?
for me to look at it and go, ooh, I gotta do that thing.
Right.
And you know, that's one of the things too is like doing it regularly. Like you know, we're talking about how our sketchbook and the art project are like very central things, but our altar space is like the biggest dedicated space in our living room. And we just haven't felt like doing altar stuff lately. We haven't really felt like doing magic lately. It's been, you know, while we've been trying to build boundaries there and had, you know, mentioned these creative blocks, we've kind of both been in like a weird magical block. What it is
so true,
is
dude.
because we need to cultivate that and bring that back, but also like what we need to do, what what we've done in the past, which is what we need to do, is to refresh our altar space. Normally we would redo it every so often, but we started seeds earlier this year, and we kind of like never really did anything with the altar space after the seeds went outside, and it's just sort of been languishing.
I feel like
so it makes it harder if you're not interacting
today
with it.
Is the myriad garden spaces I have around the property.
Yeah.
Right? And that's in reality, like, I think that's why I've focused so much on this nature meditation of late. And like I exercise outside. In fact, the other day I was like, oh man, maybe I'll grab some weights and come inside so I can like finish watching this anime that I'm watching. Right?
Yeah.
To like exercise. And I was like, I'm not gonna fucking do that.
And
man.
I mean,
so I did it outside. So it's like for me, I'm like, I feel like the energy that I normally use for like altar space, like like magical practice stuff has been sort of repurposed into my garden. Right? And that's not a dig at the garden, and it's not like moving past the fact that I need to redo the altar space like ferociously. It needs work. But it's just that like I've been so sort of like overwhelmed sounds overly dramatic, but just whelmed. I've been regular whelmed about like too much shit, right? And all of the excess energy I have has been put to the shop in the last like 8 months, right? And then only recently, in the last maybe 2 or 3 months, I've been able to find like structure, pattern, and clarity within the whelming to be able to like carve out spaces for like regular physical exercise and like regular like sort of advanced construction projects, to do housework and to do yard work and to do land work. And I've been trying to get back into it, and I feel like I've been getting back into it fairly reasonably, but I also know like, we're behind on Book Shadows pages. I need to do that, but I went from 5 or 6 days a week I can sit at my laptop and do work, because of the frequency with which I did shop work, where I have to set up a table with what blocks access to my laptop, to now I have access to my laptop like maybe 3 days a week, like more like 2 days a week, so I have to be way more timely and structured with the way that I do these things. But I think that we've made a fantastic effort in finding balance within that structure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Trying to find a middle path.
I've been really trying to let my intuition guide me with this. Like real talk, listeners. Hey listeners, real talk. It's really hard to do this thing that we're doing. And I don't say that because I want you to pity us or anything like that.
Do
not feel bad for us. And also don't be like, not true.
We have so much stuff to read.
But like there's so many, we're so excited about this podcast. And we know we talk about the Etsy shop a lot, right? But that's basically going to become my 9 to 5 probably within like the next 2 years.
It's business.
Which allows me to spend more time on this. But we're so excited about this podcast and all the things that we want to do with it and interacting with you as our listeners. And we really take it like very seriously, but it's also very hard to do. We have to come up with a thing and then we have to find the time and we forgot and it gets pushed off, or it's hard to make the notes.
It's just a lot of work.
Like it's also, it is a lot of work to do, but it's also a lot of like, there's a lot of internal expectations being set by us to be able to provide you with content as the listener, so when we don't do our own magic stuff for a little while, it feels like we're being disingenuous in a way, even though I know that that's not true. But it also feels like, oh, well, we're doing this podcast and I haven't done a spell in however long, even though I definitely do little things that are spells much more frequently. I haven't done like a big, nice font caps spell with the candles and the thing and the altar and the stuff, right?
We haven't done a ritual TM.
Yeah, we haven't done like a big capital S spell, capital R ritual.
Spells,
so it kind of gets you in this weird mental place where you like feel like, oh, I am an imposter in this place.
Well,
but also feeling bad about doing the thing, and then it sort of like falls into the cycle. So I've been trying to sort of let go of that and allow my intuition to be my guide. So like, there was a time where I was trying to pull a tarot or an oracle card every single day. And it proved to be a lot of work. And I ended up like leaving the cards out for longer and longer. And then I would, it kind of like didn't really make sense. So what I have been doing with the frequency of pulling cards is the same thing that I've been doing with the question, the mindset of information that I want my cards to return to me, which is show me what I need to know. And that's what I tell my cards when I go to pull cards. So what I have
the only way I pull cards. I almost never ask a question of cards. I am always just like, I'm going to use these cards today. 50% of the time, 3 shuffles in, I'm just like, oh, I made a mess. But these 3 cards are up, so what's up?
Yeah, girl? Yeah. So what I've been doing is allowing the frequency of pulling my cards to also be informed in that same idea is, when I walk by them every day and I see them from basically everywhere in the living room. Totally. And I have like a nice little enchanted perfume bottle and I like to put on my perfume in the mornings, even if I'm not going anywhere because it smells nice and I like it. I sort of like touch the cards and understand, oh, okay, no, not today.
Yeah.
Or
totally,
yes,
totally.
pull them today. And I've been trying to really work on more of an intuitive method for that sort of thing. So have I done like a capital R ritual or a capital S spell lately? No, but I do have plans to do some. And they're not necessarily tied to a time frame for some of them.
We'll be definitely doing more of that stuff. As we grow into sort of like finding a good balance, I mean, the sort of Toto, is that the name of the dog pulling the curtain back?
Was the dog the one who pulled the curtain back? Okay, you said Toto, and I was like, bless the rains down in Africa.
That's fair. No,
and then I realized what you were talking about, and I was like, oh, I have no idea.
whatever her dog's name is.
It is Toto. The dog's name is Toto.
Yeah, the dog pulls the curtain back.
Oh, does he?
Do you not remember the movie? Oh my God.
Not that well.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, because
I'm not a big fan of Wizard of Oz.
I mean,
I don't really care for it.
Let me tell you a secret about Wizard of Oz. Anti-capitalist. It's got a lot of shenanigans about the way that we're living our lives.
It's true, but I'm not generally a big fan about Wizard.
I wouldn't consider myself a Wizard of Oz fan, but like I've seen the movie more than once because I'm alive still. Probably. And yeah, because she's like talking to the giant glowy face and the dog's like and like goes over and pulls the curtain back and she's like J'accuse because that asshole's like 5 feet away. Hey, listen, secret time to Wizard of Oz. Put your fucking announcement station like 2 stories up or down.
Build a door.
Yeah, build a fucking door.
Build a door.
He pulls the dog pulls a curtain back.
Yeah.
It's barely there. Yeah.
Build a door.
That's a bad wizard. Bad wizards. But no, to like oh my God, I almost forgot what I was talking about there for a second. Like to pull the curtain back and sort of like look better at the things that we're trying to do. Like we want to get into doing more of this ritual stuff and involving like producing more stuff, but certainly a part of it is like sort of accepting that there are ways to do things that are very, very efficient and ways to do things that are far more exhausting than necessary.
And the number of things that we want to do is essentially limitless.
Sure, of course, you know, and we have to think about this in the like, you know, I used to simplify this maybe a little too much in my head, but it's that like I don't want to do some shit that I don't want to do, and I like simple spherical cow in a vacuum sort of logic, but like if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to enjoy the doing. And I'm not going to want to participate in the doing, so why am I trying to do it, right? And it's not that I don't want to do some of these things, but it's that the nature by which I'm convincing myself to do these things is, like, negative, right? And, you know, I know that we're programmed by the giant TV screen in our house to think negatively so that way we consume more capitalism or fucking whatever people are going on about nowadays with that shit. But like at some threshold, we need to start making sort of positive changes in order to connect better with those things, right? And each of us, it's going to be different. There's no single path, right? With the singular exception of meditation, right? Always meditate. Right. Yeah. But your meditation doesn't have to be the same as my meditation. Some people, they got the legs crossed and they got the
you and I meditate.
Nice.
Very
oh my God. I can meditate in like the middle of like regular day-to-day shit. Like,
and I meditate best like a little high in the bath at night.
Oh yeah. I don't need any of that. Yeah. I don't need any of that.
That is my like ideal place.
Yeah. I have procured the knowledge of I have made up the right way to say that is made up this thing that I love to call micro meditation, which is just meditating within a single breath. Right? And it's those like little moments of reprieve you can achieve in any task, regardless of what it is, where you're just like, I feel myself getting whelmed, I feel myself being exhausted, or sometimes like, I'm just going to take a break. This is a bunch of shit and I've got this, but fuck this. So I'm going to take a little break. So you just like take a breath, right? And you like sort of find that like in the breath, as you breathe in, right? You sort of unask the question at the peak of that breath when your lungs are full. You sort of like level set everything. Right? You sort of achieve that middle path, right? Or at least strive towards it in that unasked question. And then as you breathe out, you sort of come back to like normalized reality. And in so doing, you drag a bit of that calmness, a bit of that hyper reality, a bit of that meditative, like conscious state with you. And this is a thing that I have spent literally years working on, right? Not because I saw a thing or read a thing, but because it's something that like I have found increased success with. I have found to be increasingly successful. So it's something that I strive towards. But at the same time, maybe I'm just crazy. That has to be 50%. Right?
You're definitely crazy.
That's fair. I am. Yeah.
You're definitely crazy.
It's fine. But like that's one of those things that I make a very significant conscious effort towards. Right. And like the pulling tarot cards thing that you said, like I used to pull tarot cards every day and I don't anymore, but I still, so I use like a, gratitude app.
Yeah.
As like a micro journal, because one of these days I'll figure out how to fucking journal. Journaling is the most unachievable goal in my life.
Well, but maybe
because
I
want to journal and I'm so bad at it.
I mean, but like maybe that's not the thing that's like meant for you, right? So I was listening to
my journal is not.
I was
journal.
listening
it's a series
to
of lists.
the Queen Herbie podcast,
Sure.
House of Herbie, recently. I am absolutely
Fire
obsessed
podcast, dog.
with them and with it, and it would be like a huge goal. I'm just speaking this possibility out to the universe for her and Jedi Nick to come on this podcast with us.
Or for us to go on their podcast.
Or
What's
for
up?
vice
Let's
versa.
do podcast exchange or whatever that's called.
Because I listen to them and I'm just like, they're just like us.
Yeah.
We're just like them.
Yeah.
I feel like I know them. Anyway.
Yeah.
They were talking to they were doing an interview recently with someone, and this person was basically talking about how you need to do different types of like therapy, and like different types of therapy will work better for other people. And let me tell you what, I was listening to this, and this was like, I was driving while I was listening to it, and I was like, this is a fucking game changer.
It's too much.
I've been thinking about this a lot within the last like couple of weeks, where it's like, okay, so everything is like fucked right now in like the grand world, right? Everybody is like, so so this was like a game changer for me. I was like pretty mind blown because I don't remember exactly what this person said, but it clicked so hard that I like kind of stopped listening and had to like rewind this podcast to finish listening to the thought.
Yeah, sometimes you hear a magical podcast, you gotta pause that shit, take a deep breath, go back 10 seconds, replay that shit. Dude, I know that's so hard.
So like a couple of years ago, I was having a difficult time and sought out therapy, and had some
like
good
standard therapy.
Yeah, like regular therapy, and had like a like a pretty good time, I guess you could say. Like I had a good experience with doing this therapy, and I was like, okay, well then I'm going to continue it. And I continued it. And the thing about it is I started feeling worse and worse.
About
mentally,
the therapy or because of the therapy?
Or some combination
tangentially to the therapy.
Yeah, some combination of the two. And it wasn't like we were uncovering things that like I didn't want to like think about. It was like, it was just sort of putting me into this like sort of an unhealthy doom spiral.
The feedback loop of like thinking
of this way. And this therapist, who was fantastic, like assigned me to read this book, The Body Keeps Score, and I started reading it, and it was great at first. And every subsequent reading of the book, I just felt worse and worse to myself. It was almost like it became a trigger for a depressive episode for me to read this book. And as such, I don't think that I'm going to continue to read it, at least now, but maybe in the future. Like, we bought it, it exists.
I mean, it's a book on paper, so that shit's forever.
Yeah. So I sort of stopped. I sort of fell out of doing that because like I had to reschedule twice basically, and was like, never again. Like, it's too hard to do this stuff, you know, because I just felt like I had to get into like this like place about it. And then I started to realize that after I was in this like mental place to deal with this therapy, then I would be in like kind of not a great place for a little while. And it was like, well, why am I feeling this way? Like, this doesn't make me feel good at all. Yeah. And this doesn't seem to actually be helping me with the things that I want to be solving. And you might listen to this and go, well, that sounds like a bad therapist. And I'm going to tell you, no, I don't think that that's the case, because I think that the thing that I needed was not therapy in that sense. I think that the thing that I needed was to sit with myself, to explore and to understand and to like do this shadow work. You know, I've been getting into like this chakra work and stuff like that, and thinking about a variety of different things. I've got a bunch of like conspiracy theories, more or less tinfoil hattery about it. Oh my God.
Let me tell you,
but
we are gonna tinfoil some witches' hats.
So it occurred to me that like maybe the thing that I was missing was a more of a spiritual, introspective, therapeutic approach than having a traditional therapist do this stuff. Totally. And because we have to say this, like, we are not experts, we're not doctors.
Oh my God.
You know,
I'm literally the exact opposite of a doctor.
Please don't stop going to, please don't make any changes to your therapy, whether you have it or not, because we said we were doing a thing.
Yeah.
We're just talking about what works for us.
Yeah, we're two assholes in a house. That's not.
Yeah.
You know what a doctor isn't? Two assholes in a house.
And when I had that realization, I had this like sort of a calm come over me, because it had never occurred to me before that you could have different types of quote unquote therapy. And I'm not talking about going to a different therapist. I'm just talking about a different way to look at, analyze, and improve upon unhealthy patterns within my own being.
It's an approach vector to a solution. Right?
Yeah.
Or a sensation, regardless of the outcome. It's the idea that, like, okay, so, like, let's sort of sphericalize the cow in the vacuum on this. Like, if you are trying to lose weight, right, there are literally an infinite number of diets that you can go on, right? You could do the Atkins. You can do Jenny Craig. That shit probably exists. I don't know. You can do, I bet there's an Oprah specific diet. You could do, whatever that is where you don't eat fucking, nothing that old, like, ancient people didn't eat, whatever that shit is.
Paleo.
You can do paleo, right? You can do just straight calorie counting. You can cut whatever the fuck out you want. You can do whatever that shit is where you don't eat like only like no processed foods, but like everything else.
You can add 2 shakes in replacement of 2 meals. You can do the Slim Fast
you can do.
diet,
Oh yeah, Slim Fast. Is that shit still around? Damn.
I don't know. Maybe I was very into it in the
Slim
early
Fast,
and it was. Man,
I mean,
that stuff messed
I
me
have
up.
never understood Slim Fast. That being said, I don't really eat 3 meals a day. And definitely sometimes one of the 2 meals a day that I eat is like a protein shake. But that's just because it's less work and I don't care. My body doesn't care about that. So
mine definitely has feelings about that.
I'm not that. There are days when it's like 3:00 and I'm like doing something and I'm like, man, feeling like really exhausted. What's going on? And I like sit down for 5 minutes and like have a glass of water or whatever, or like finish the coffee in my coffee pot and be like, oh, it's because I haven't had food. It's 3. This is ridiculous. Jonathan, eat food, you fucking monster. And then I'm like, I'm having a protein shake and like 4 Triscuits. Not because I'm trying to count calories, but because I got shit to do and I'm too busy for this. And a protein shake I can drink like water, and 4 Triscuits I can eat while I'm making that protein shake. Because there's something wrong with me. But like, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, right, there are an infinite number of approaches to every problem, right? And an infinite number of solutions. And like, just because, like, your experience with a thing is different than my or her or some other experience with a thing doesn't devalue the experience or the thing. It's simply that it's different. I say this very often. I like to say, well, obviously I'm going to think differently than you think, because if I thought the same way, if I understood this the same way you understood, if I thought or came to the same conclusion that you came to or thought about, then we would be the same person. But since I'm over here and you're over there, clearly we're fucking different people. Therefore, we're going to have different ways of thinking about this. Like, I know that that's like a hyper simple way of thinking about this, but I think it is more poignant and necessary a way of thinking about shit than like we give it credit to be. Sometimes the simple solution is the solution. Like, I get that, like, your friend was like, I talked to this guy and this guy had these words and these words meant like a bunch of shit, and so that solved a bunch of stuff for me. And like, that's gangster. It doesn't devalue your friend's experience with that thing if you don't have that connection with that thing, right? We have meditation is such a profound example of this. And I mean, honestly, all of our magical practices are fairly profoundly different. But like, meditation is one of these things where like the way that you approach meditation and the way that I approach meditation are profoundly different. But it doesn't change the fact that meditation did. You know? Yeah. Meditation occurred. So who cares if I'm meditating differently than you're meditating? If I'm meditating and listening to like rock and roll music and you're meditating and listening to like sweet frequencies or what have you, or I'm listening to frequencies and you're listening to like some other shit, you know, like that doesn't matter because we're both meditating. And you know, like, so growing up in like a kung fu school, you sort of like, there's this adage that I kind of grew up like surrounded by, which is not yours until you've done it 1,000 times. Therefore, you need to do it 1,000 times to make it yours, right? And that's always sort of played a fairly large like part in my life, in the idea that like I get that everybody else is doing X. And that's gangster, and I'm gonna like work towards X. But like, if my shit occurs Y, then I'm just gonna do Y.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, that still has value because I'm achieving the same I'm achieving the same goal, or I'm accomplishing the same task, or I'm doing the thing that we're asking to get did. But like, I'm doing it my way, which is more efficient, which is less effort, it's less stressful, it's less deleterious, and at the same time, I'm finding sort of my path in reality, right? If we are individuals, and as individuals, we are sort of like existence experiencing itself, then our value must lie in the fact that we all individually experience existence with slight difference. And the value comes not from the experience and not even from the analysis, but from the difference wherewithin we perceive that experience. Right? My purple is not the same color as your purple. And that's the most important part. Difference is the key, right? The sort of like devil in the details of it is that we're doing different things and we're experiencing those things differently. And the value of that is if we're not focused on the negative and if we're trying to achieve like greater good, then like, I have my belief structures and I have my meditative structures and my magical practices and like my day-to-days and all that stuff. And you have yours. And by me saying like, this is the shit that I'm doing, what's up? And this is what I believe. And you're like, this is shit that I'm doing and what's up? And this is what I believe. And you guys out there in the like, you know, like infinite cosmos of listening are like, these are my structures and my beliefs. This is what's up. Right. And like sharing these things with us, then as a group, we all get to like raise up. Right. You know, it's that like whatever, high tide raise all boats.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because like, though I may practice meditation in a different way than somebody else practices meditation, is meditation achieved? Yes. Therefore, your interpretation of meditation and my interpretation of meditation are not only equal, but increasingly valued because we are willing to not just say this is the right way and sort of like harden our belief, but the fact that we're able to share that and grow about the way that we meditate and talk about the way that we meditate such that everybody who participates in that conversation maybe learns a new thing.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe that new thing is I meditate and I keep my hands in a specific shape. Maybe that thing is I meditate, but like, what are you talking about? You can't have words in the music you're listening to while you meditate.
Oh, no, I cannot.
Right.
I start focusing on it too much.
The words. Yeah. Right. But like, whereas I have no problem with words when I'm listening to music for meditating. It's not a thing that I do all the time though. But at the same time, if we had not shared meditative experiences and like conversations about it, would I be as involved in like chakras and frequencies? Maybe not so much, right? It's just like I was runes all day, every day. And then like, because you were like so intimately involved in like tarot stuff, I've started getting into tarot stuff. Right, at first as like an intrigue, and now as maybe a concerning collective problem. because I collect a bunch of tarot decks. But like that's the thing, right? So long as we're open and like malleable, so long as we approach any situation, any thought with plasticity, right? Then we are able to evolve and change and absorb the knowledge of others, right? And like, as much as it's nice to be like, I think this way and you do too, you know, like a shiny dot on the eye or whatever, like, it's also not only equally good, but sometimes more beneficial for me to be like, this is what I think about this. And you're like, this guy's an asshole and wrong. And as such, you go like, this guy's an asshole and wrong, but it's a pretty hype idea though. And then as we exchange ideas, we both grow in the complexity of that thing, right? I mean, if we think about like space-time as being an infinitely complex series of things, then the greater complexity we can add to our predictive model, the more accurately we're able to participate in space-time as a function of our predictions, right? So like the more I'm able to like learn and understand and experience new things, the more I'm able to grow and find connections. And maybe that connection is me collecting tarot cards problematically a lot, right? And maybe that's like you know, like increasingly learning more about like astrology, right? Even though that's like not my vibe, right? The more that we talk about it, the more that like I'm like, oh, well, this correlates with this.
Yeah.
Or like I heard this guy say a thing that seems very astrology adjacent, and then you listen to that thing and you're just like, this guy's 100% astrology. What do you mean adjacent? And I'm just like,
yeah,
got it. You know? So like that's sort of that, like I think, to sort of like put a particular head on this pen, like I think that's what we've been doing recently, is sort of like trying to sphericalize the cow, trying to sort of like round out the collegiate experience. You know, if you're going to college and they're like, you got to take pottery so you're a rounded student or whatever the fuck's going on.
Well, and we're also trying to, I think that it's less of that, and I think it's more of trying to step into our authentic selves. You know, it's you see like a lot of you see like a lot of creators in really any sphere, and there's sort of a point where some creators continue to remain their authentic selves, and some of them are just starting to put out the content that the algorithm is you know, trying to push to do, pumping
out units.
And that's a thing that we are actively trying not to do, is to feed into the algorithm, because trust me, I know what the algorithm wants, and we're not going to do that. We're going to do the things that we want because we want them, and we hope that you want to like come along with us. I would
rather be middlingly successful and a real human with my own thoughts and opinions than incredibly successful and have to parrot some sort of robotic bullshit. Yeah. Right? And I think that we both certainly have that sort of approach to the way that we're doing these things, and we're doing that with the Etsy shop, and we're doing that with the podcast, and we're doing that with the YouTube channel and our social media and all that kind of stuff. And like we're slowly getting back into it. We're slowly doing more of this, and you know, I think that like time will find that even though we're producing less units in quotes now, I think that we're getting a better quality of unit. And I think that in the long run, the systems that we're developing are going to allow us to produce more units more efficiently in the future. Right? Yeah. And you know, we do this thing in the Etsy shop where we sort of like strategically evolve different specific parts of the process and the manner in which we're interacting with that process. And I think we're doing the same thing with this creative, like the podcast and the YouTube channel and all this kind of stuff. And I think that I think that looking back on our earlier work, especially on YouTube, like pre the podcast, we were doing a lot more of that, like producing units to fit a thing.
Yeah.
And I think now I feel that the units that we produce have more value to us.
Yeah.
Right. And like from an artistic standpoint, I like the idea that like I'm not going to do a drawing that I don't want to do and wouldn't want to look at.
You're not going to Inktober it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm not going to do art because art is because I'm being told to do art. I'm going to do art because I want to be creative and do art. And you know, as we grow and learn and like evolve within that particular headspace, I think we also gain the ability to understand that like sometimes we need to do a small art and sometimes we need to do a large art. But the fact that we're the fact that we're doing it in like a genuine way is where that matters. A fantastic example is that this is the longest pub chat that's ever been pub chatted.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, we leave you. We thought about doing this sub 30 minutes. It was a lot. You guys know. It was a lot. With so many words.
He told me it would work, and I was like, "No, it's not."
She didn't believe me.
He was like, "Believe in me."
Thrice she denied me. It's okay. So either way, I have been. We're just gonna wrap this up real quick. Either way, I have been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast, and we will catch you guys next time for more podcasts, more pub chats, and maybe less time rambling. But I hope you got something out of this. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what you've done, and come along, grow,
and what you're
subscribe
up
to the channel.
And
what
also,
are you up to?
Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for allowing us to be like vulnerable and real and kind of take off this like magic-y mask.
Yeah, totally.
That we normally have on here. We are real people.
Yes. I'm definitely not a robot. I don't have to
letting
answer
us
that question.
be those people and chase the stream.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, 100%. So, yeah, like, I guess thank you. I don't have a grand way of ending this, but stay magical, folks. Go out there, do stuff, and stay magical.
Yeah, and don't forget, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.